Our trust in anybody in our government at the top level is just getting shredded by the day.
Two things we should keep in mind. General Sisi's staff commented after Blinken last visited Egypt that the general and his staff had grown tired of listening to Mr. Blinken repeat Mr. Netanyahu's talking points. Mr. Blinken is doing an excellent job of everything that Mr. Netanyahu wants him to do. Number two, he's interested, as is most of Washington, in buying as much time as possible for the Israelis to complete their task of creating Greater Israel. In other words, eliminate all of the Arabs in Gaza and the West Bank. And they now realize that that's not going to happen unless they can also bring to heel Hezbollah and subjugate that area. So we are buying time for them to do that. Now, it has now moved beyond buying time because it can't be done, certainly not in the time frame that they would like. And instead, what you've got is brewing a new war. Normally, you would expect the American government to intervene and say, well, look, we're not prepared for a major war. We didn't commit to that. But the truth is, behind closed doors, that's exactly what we've committed to do. That's what Mr. Austin said, and that's exactly what we're about to do. We are going to involve ourselves in a war with not only Hezbollah, but also Iran. And we can go over this 1,000 times. All of the Arab states in the region are horrified and afraid. The elites don't want any wars, but their populations are angry on a scale that one can't imagine with what's happened to the Arabs in Gaza. But you also have another problem. You have the rest of the world, and you have Russia and China, and increasingly Turkey. Turkey is trying to build nuclear reactors to improve its energy position. It's trying to stabilize its economy, so it has worked hard to stay out of the fight. But the Turks aren't going to be able to stay out of the fight if the Israelis march into South Lebanon and initiate this campaign of annihilation, which I think we have to expect. And I think that's what the Turks are worried about. So you could have the entire region finally engaged in this. Can we actually compensate for whatever power Israel doesn't has and needs? I don't know, but I think it's going to be tough. But obviously, Mr. Erdogan is confident that we can ensure that he prevails.
Do you think there's any set of circumstances where a NATO ally, Turkey, would actually go to war against Israel?
Well, first of all, I think NATO is largely a paper organization. That's something that Americans don't realize. And if anything, behind the scenes in Europe, NATO is crumbling. Turkey has been on the outs with NATO, as we say, for a very long time. Membership, as far as the Turks are concerned, in NATO and in the European Union, they've never gotten into the EU, but they've been promised the opportunity. None of that has ever paid off. And the Turks have had to make a decision. It's a decision the Europeans need to make, and they're afraid to. But the Turks have said, look, we're Turks. We're Muslim Turks. We're not Europeans. We're not part of Europe, per se. And that's a fact. The Turks have decided, well, we've had it. We've tried everything we can. We're not going to bother with you anymore. And so the notion that the Turks could become involved in this, I think, is completely legitimate and should be expected. So I don't think NATO means anything at all. I've always been concerned, and I expressed this view to President Trump, both written and otherwise, back in December of 2020, that we should get our troops, our forces, and everything we own out of Turkey. Because at some point, our troops on the ground in Turkey could become hostages. And remember, we still have some nuclear weapons in Turkey. We got to get them out, because this is no longer the Cold War. We're in a different world now. Turkey is a sovereign state. It's going to behave in accordance with what it thinks is its interests. It's not aligned with us. If anybody thinks that the things you and I are discussing about Israel are not understood or appreciated in the Middle East or Asia, they're deluded. We are viewed as Israel's tool. We are seen as being governed by Israel.